What up? Coach Liebs here, and this is episode 17 of Coach Talk. It's Tuesday. We had a great practice on Monday to start the week off. Like I mentioned, we're playing St. Peter's Prep, who's one of the best teams in the state of New Jersey. Really well coached, ton of great athletes. So it's imperative that we just continue to raise our level of play this week in practice and just continue to work harder and finish harder and push ourselves more. And we're getting back to that. I think there was a time in the middle of the season where I didn't feel like we were all players, coaches included, striving to push ourselves past our limits. Luckily, I don't really think it cost us any games, but I think it's just part of maturing as a program. And I think now we're finally doing that. Now, Coach Teal keeps saying it to the team. At some point in every season, there's the turning point where a team decides to buy in fully and decides to do whatever it takes to get the job done and accomplish all of our goals. Because, we got 4 weeks left in the regular season. You start to think about all those weeks in the summer, that you spent preparing for this. And all the weeks for these guys, they went 2-8. So they started lifting full time like last December. They've been going at this for 8-9 months. It's all got to be worth something in the end. So if it means that we got to work a little bit harder, or as coaches stay a little bit longer in the office watching film and game planning, like whatever it takes, it's all worth it, because we don't want all that work in the summer to go to waste and have that be for nothing. And I think that there's a sense of urgency now, which, long story short, is there's a sense of urgency that you can feel. I think everyone's really excited. Everyone feels great about the way we're working. You go to bed and rest your head on the pillow every night feeling accomplished and feeling like, you're doing things the right way. And I think that really does a lot for you. There's supposed to be a little bit of rain today. So what we're doing is, we couldn't get the bubble. I think we're going to miss it. We're going to be able to miss the rain if we start practice earlier. So we're pushing everything up by about an hour and a half to try and beat the rain, which is just, a little bit more insight for you guys as to how a high school program handles it when it's going to rain outside and be bad weather. So we're going to move meetings, move everything up by an hour and a half, so that we can get out there and practice in as much good weather as possible. Interesting thing about high school is there's some coaches that are just going to be late. Like, they're working until a certain time, and it's late notice as to, that we're going to push practice up. And it's just the reality of high school coaches. Most of us will be there, but there might be a couple guys that, can't get out of their shift early enough or whatever it is. And are going to be a couple minutes behind, and the coaches that are there, we just got to make up for the slack and figure it out during meetings and bring energy during practice, so we got all hands on deck. The thing that's been on my mind that I want to talk about today is the struggles. One of the biggest adjustments I've had to make as a high school coach is the film struggles. Being a receivers coach, there is probably about more often than not, if not 50-50, there's 1 to 3 receivers cut out of the film shot. And it's just a matter of, like when I was at Rutgers in Albany, you're playing Division I football in bigger stadiums where the viewpoint to film it from is much higher. So you get like a bird's eye view. The wide shot can see the entire field easily. You can see leverages of the defenders. You can see all 11 guys in one shot, and it's easy. And you take that for granted. I went to Wesleyan playing Division III football, and a little spottier. Now it's college football. You still have some stadiums. You have now kids that are being paid to film the games. At least at Wesleyan, it was always athletes from other sports that worked as like work study for the football team, would travel with us, come to practice and all that, and they would film. So they had a clue about what football is supposed to look like, what's important to film, how wide they needed to get to see the whole play. Like, it was kind of easy because it was fellow athletes. And now in high school, you just have a whole gamut of people who are filming practice games, opponent film, like whatever it is. There's just so many struggles as a wide receivers coach with the film where, you might have all 11 guys in the shot to start the play, but then the kid is zoomed in a little bit too tight, and 2 seconds into the play, if the kid runs a route deeper than 6 yards, he's out of the picture and you can't see what he did. So it makes it very challenging to coach. And we had a situation even with the game last weekend, Pope John, there were a couple shots where he ran out of the frame. Practice yesterday, one kid who was a kid, his mother had to pick him up or something. So, we had limited film, and, half the practice, the wide receivers aren't in the picture. But the worst is opponent film. The worst is you're getting film from all these different schools where they have different, they've taught their film guys differently. They have different expectations. Maybe, sometimes it seems like the kids are filming from the ground because they played at some public high school on a grass field with no bleachers, so you can't get up high at all to see anything. And other times, they'll play, like we're playing St. Peter's, and they played a game at Rutgers this year in that stadium. So that film was great. They played St. Joe's Philly in Rutgers. So now you can see everything, and that's great. But then there's other times where they're playing they're playing a public school, and the film is terrible. And for receivers, there's 60 plays, and they're only in all 4 receivers only in 32 of the plays. So there's only so much I can use to teach the kids with. It's a very, very interesting struggle. The other thing too that comes up is you're trying to game plan an opponent, and so you're watching their 4 previous games for St. Peter's, let's say, and there might be a week where none of the offenses that you're watching carry over. Like we run more of a spread type system. We're very multiple. We can go 2 back. We can go 2 tight end as well. And there's times where you might watch a team and one of their opponents is a triple option offense. It doesn't really help you. One of the opponents might be a lower public school that's not very competitive. So the game plan might be completely different. Like we're in the big north with all these private schools that have some of the greatest athletes in the state. A team like St. Peter's or a Bergen Catholic or a Paramus Catholic, they might use a completely different game plan because they don't have to pull out all the stops to beat a public school, and they don't want to show too much on film, or they want to set up their tendencies a certain way so that they can make a big time adjustment for this game. And so those are all things that you kind of deal with in high school that aren't as much of a factor in college, especially the D1 level. Like maybe 3 times a year, the filmer missed a play or didn't film it perfectly, like 3 plays the entire year. It was almost spot on at Rutgers. And and all the opponent film you got too was just about spot on. And then, the D3 level, it's a little iffier, but it's probably 92% of the time, 90% of the time, it's perfect where you got what you need. You can see all the routes, you can see everything. And then in high school, it's really like 50-50, whether from practice film to game film. Our operation at home and at practice is better because you have to coach the filmers. You have to tell them what's expected. When they have a shot that's too tight, you got to bring them in and show them on film. Say, hey, this is too tight. Our receivers coach can't coach off this. Our DBs coach can't coach off this. You need to back it up and widen it out. Here's what we expect, and constantly coach them. And it's something that as a GA was my job for 4 or 5 years of my career. Now we got some younger coaches that are in charge of that. But the game film is the worst thing because you're playing all these different environments where there's not a consistent perch to film from. Maybe they have one just from the end zone shot, so you get a good tight shot, but you don't see the wide shot very well. There's a ton of factors that I just think is interesting. As a high school coach that you just got to deal with, and you got to, like for me, my job for the breakdowns is to identify coverages of the opponent. And there were a bunch of plays for St. Peter's where I couldn't see the safeties. And I had to use context clues for the other, 9 defenders. How are the corners playing? How are the outside linebackers playing? What are the percentages? What are their tendencies to figure out what the hell the safeties are doing in the back when you can't see them? And, you still want to label that so you can build, you can, if it looks like cover 4 everywhere else, and it probably is cover 4. If it looks like it's cover 2 everywhere else, it probably is cover 2. If you see the safety roll down strong, they're rolling to some sort of 1 high coverage, and you can use those context clues. But it's a heck of a challenge that people don't talk about. When you come coaching high school football, it's a lot different, and you take it for granted when you're playing at Penn State and you're above everything, and you can see all 11 guys easily. You can see the whole sideline easily, and it makes it much easier to coach at. And it's a challenge, but it's entertaining, and it's something that as coaches, I think you always kind of find something to gripe about to get you through the day, because the lifestyle is hard, is grueling, and you're working a lot of hours, and it's something you can kind of laugh at and bitch and moan about, but it's all in good fun. When you're the receivers coach and you only got 9 of the 11 guys on film, 2 of them happen to be receivers. It's an everyday struggle, but it's something that I think needs to be said for anyone making that adjustment from college to high school or high school to college. It's definitely something you got to keep in mind, and it's something that you got to get as a head coach, as a coordinator. Something I think we do a good job of. You got to get your GA, or whether you do it yourself, to really coach the filmer to get him to film how you want it, at least for practice and for home games. So at least that more than 50% of the time you've got reliable stuff, and then the opponent scout's going to be a struggle, and away games at times can be a struggle. But it is what it is. It's just part of the reality of the business of high school football. So that's all I got. Really important practice today. Third down day on Tuesday. We're going to be outside to beat the rain, and it's got to be a great day. It's Coach Liebs, episode 17 of Coach Talk. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.